On today's episode of our drift car build-off presented by Koyorad and Spec Clutch,
it's rear subframe day, which means pressing out these skanky old bushings and pressing in these new ones from PowerFlex and showing off some new tools. How about a PowerFlex BT?
As you may have noticed, our subframe is looking mighty good right now. Nice and shiny with some black Pour 15 paint. Pressing these bushings out is something you can do at home. However, I highly recommend buying one of these. This is a bushing press pull sleeve kit. And I bought this one on Amazon for, I think, $103. We'll link it below. And it comes in tremendously handy because it gives you the option and possibility of pretty much cupping the top and the bottom of the bushing and then pushing it through kind of with ease. So as you'll see here, what I've done is I've chosen a cup that is larger than the bushing below and then one that is slightly smaller than the one up top. And what I now do is just thread my nut onto the bottom here. Now what I'm going to do is just start bringing it in just a little bit. So as you can see, it's kind of tilting away, which isn't ideal, but that's because we've got too large a cup on the bottom. And the reason for that is these bushings are lipped on the bottom side, so you can't actually get them to line up perfectly because that lip is actually the outermost edge. So what I'm going to actually do now is put a bit of heat into this, because that's going to free up this rubber bushing. We did it on the other side and it worked well. And I guess the million-dollar question here is how much heat and for how long? I found about 2 to 3 minutes definitely is enough. It just needs a little bit of warmth to free that rubber from the actual metal. Oh yeah.
Bro.
Look at those O's.
Oh,
Look at those O's.
The vape game is strong.
That's right. Okay, now that we've got this nice and warm, that was about 2 to 3 minutes. Let's see if this will pull through here like it did on the other side. Yes! Victory! There it is. And that's the lip that I was talking about. That poses a slight problem, as you saw there. It's just the cup does not want to sit perfectly straight, so it kind of goes around it, but it's still manageable. We've got that one out. So I'm going to clean this guy up, and we are moving on to bushing number 2. Okay, so this one here, what I actually did was, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see this, but it's really warm. I went the opposite way, what I would normally go, and I don't know if I can push this guy out just yet, no. You can see this is the sheet metal that creates that lip that goes around it, and I just sucked it straight through. So eventually that metal folds in and goes up, and that way I'm able to get a much flatter surface like this larger cup to sit properly on here rather than on the other side where you saw it was kind of crooked. So this actually works out pretty well too. One each way is fine. As you saw, they both work. So now we've got the last bushing that we're going to change out, which is this one. You can see it's a front control arm bushing. Lots of play here. And unfortunately, it is very rusted. We struggled with it on the other side, but I've got some tools to help me with this. Put the propane torch away, and that is because despite it being a really good tool to heat nuts and bolts, it doesn't necessarily localize the heat. What it does is spread it out in a very primitive fashion in terms of a flame and whatnot. But check this tool out. This is the Bolt Buster heat induction tool, and what it does is it runs a bunch of electricity through a coil, which then heats up whatever you're trying to heat up. Look at that. glowing, piping hot. I'm just gonna keep going a little bit further just to really get a bunch of heat into it to make sure that this thing's gonna come off. Look at that. Now, I didn't heat the other side, which I did on the other side of the bushing, but let's see if this will come off. Look at that. Pretty awesome tool, actually. It is a little expensive, but for the amount of rust that we deal with, I think for us at least it was worth it. So definitely check out Bowl Buster. With this bushing here, this one doesn't have a lip, so it's a simple press-in style. So I've got my cup now that I'm gonna set up, obviously larger than the bushing. And on this side here, I actually just trimmed off a little bit of rubber that was gonna interfere with my, my press tool here. So now this is set up. This is certainly a pretty thick piece of metal here. Kind of wish I busted out the acetylene torch. I got a little small one we should have been using for that, heating up this area here, DP. But let's see what happens here. See if I can try to push this through. Nope. All right, well, there's, come on out. There is the inside of our bushing. So now we are going to remove the outer shell of this bushing that's kind of welded into our lower control arm here. And after trying many cheap blades out there, I finally decided I'm gonna go with one of the best, which is the Torch series from Milwaukee. This is a carbide tooth blade for thick metal, and it should make easy work of what I'm trying to do here. We've got our man Moose holding on tight. Watch yourself, Moose. I don't want to chop into you here, but bam.
Oh, there she goes.
There she goes indeed. There you go. So that is one piece, as you can see, of that wonderful, very thick metal sleeve from the bushing. And now what I'm gonna do is try to knock these guys out with a hammer. There we go. And see, it's so brittle and old. Look at it. It's just crumbling like normally this should not happen.
Now that I've covered myself and the rear subframe and lower control arms in Port 15, it's time to install some bushings. And just like in the front end, we are going with PowerFlex's Black Series bushings. These are their race-ready motorsports grade bushings, rated at 95A durometer, so these are very stiff. And I think in these locations shouldn't cause too much NVH. We found from experience that if you put bushings in the, like the diff carrier bushings or some of the outer bushings can actually cause a lot of NVH, but these ones I don't think are gonna be a problem, and it's nice to stiffen that all up back there. So these will go in, and frankly the ones that were in there were pretty bad, so it's good to replace them. We also have Black Series bushings for these outer lower control arms, and we also have these adjustable camber arms, which already have nice bushings in them already, adjustable from +1 to -3 degrees of camber. So that'll let our boys at NV Auto dial in the rear camber for Pete to become a professional drifter.
Now that I've got everything lubed up here, I'm going to just slide in the center pin just a little bit, enough so that I can push it through here. And these are gonna need tools to get them in properly, but now I can grab the top guy, top bushing here, there we go, and just engage it just enough so it's holding itself in place like that. And we are going back to my old press here, my old press kit, I should say. I found that the key with this is to make sure that everything's centered so they can suck themselves, so the bushings can suck themselves in. I did actually clean up the edges a little bit to ensure that these guys will have easy way to get on. Everything's in place here. And what I want to do is just make sure that the bushings are centered. And then slowly, wow, see that bottom one went in like a champ, and the top one, there we go. Now it is finally holding in place. So I had to do that, I think maybe two more times, like push it back in, release it, push it back in, and then it settled in nicely. I think what happens sometimes too is there's an air pocket in between the bushings, so it slowly needs to be squeezed out. So I think we can call this side done and we can move on forward. With our bushings in place, it is now time to tackle the rear control arm, and this would seem like a 10-minute job, but we have gone down the rabbit hole here, and it's a deep one, because I started working on this side, just trying to see how we're gonna take it out, and as luck would have it, or as Rust would have it, this bolt is seized into the bushing. So the nut came off, but this will not come out. It's just spinning, and it's spinning within the sleeve of the bushing. Not good. So that means we're gonna have to take this whole entire assembly out. And then I noticed that the bolt that holds it in place up in this area here, it's probably hard to see without any light, but that area there, well, guess what? You can't remove that bolt without dropping the the diff. If you pull the bolt out, it hits the diff. I don't know what BMW is thinking. So anyways, we are now dropping the diff, which means we're gonna have to take the axles off, which means I've already taken off the parking brake assembly here, which means we're gonna have to take this whole arm off. So what has gone to me thinking in the next hour or so, we're gonna be mounting this whole subframe back up. Now means a lot more work. But you know what? I'm just gonna be happy about it. It's a good chance to replace some other worn out bushings. The fail continues here. After a lot of struggle trying to get this parking brake out of its little cylinder here, what you're supposed to be able to do is, I think you should be able to pass this through here. Otherwise, how would you get this parking brake assembly through? And the other side does not, looks way thicker, so it's not the other one. So I'm trying to put it through here, and it jams up. It's jamming. What is going on, DP? How do we go to having so much wind to having so much fail?
Well, that's what 300,000 kilometers in a rusty old car will do to you.
I don't understand how it's jamming up in here. It should just like slide on through, and it feels like it's hitting a
rusty
wall.
hole here, buddy. Playing in a rusty old hole. You having fun yet, PT?
Man, look at this nonsense. Like, I've literally had to. So now I've separated our actual line from that like metal clip that clips on the other side into the chassis. You can see there it is. It's so close to getting out. I can't. It's slowly moving up, but it's just, there's still so much rust in this area that I gotta file this down.
This is the most Canadian thing we've done in ages.
Oh, this is a waste of time.
Come
We
on.
should be moving on here. I would have had bushings pressed in. We'd be well on our way to having the subframe back on. Instead, we're either boring or entertaining our viewers here.
Once you've done this, we'll go play some shinny hockey with our toques.
Oh yeah.
And we'll eat some maple dip donuts, and we'll drink a Timmy's double.
Oh.
Victory is ours.
Victory is ours. At the expense of mutilating this parking brake cable. I'm gonna have to push that back on, but that's gonna slide back on there pretty easily, I think.
Easy fix.
So, all right.
This evil little
Look
rusty
at that
hole.
hole.
Evil.
And guess what, DP? There's one
more
more
to go.
side.
That's right.
So anyways, now that we've got that out, this whole assembly can come off. So we're gonna take that off, and then you're gonna watch us struggle again, trying to get that bolt out of there. Woo! Well, that was even more work. My God, this is turning into such a pain in the ass. But With Moose's tools, he's got a press kit that's actually specifically for E46 and E36 M3 trailing arms. And look at this bushing. So it's a good thing that we decided to change it out. It is gonzo. There's another bushing right up here, and it too has a ton of play. So we're trying to get that guy out. And once we do that, we're gonna push some PowerFlex ones back in, but we've got to do this again on the other side, and I'm really not looking forward to it. There's a lot of cutting, grinding going on, but I suppose the upside is we're gonna get all of this stuff done now, so there's gonna be no excuses when it comes to driving this car in terms of any type of slop in the rear end. Well, Moose came in, helped me a ton, Moose. Thank you so much for that, because without him, I don't know if I would have pressed these bushings out.
Hey, what am I over here? Am I chopped liver?
You're the painter.
Come on, look at me.
You're the hired
DP is
painter.
the painter. He's the hired painter today.
Hey,
so
hey.
you're making it look pretty. We're actually making stuff function here. All right.
Somebody around here's got to be pretty. Come
That's
on.
right. That's right.
Ain't me.
So, Moose, tell the fans here a little bit of what we did and how we accomplished that. They just watched that time lapse, but I'm sure it was it looked very easy, as it always does, right?
Yeah, well, what you have is you had a bush, which, as you can see, the OE one has a fair bit of play in it.
They were all super
pretty
worn out.
loose. And it's pressed into the casting, and it's a pressure fit. So you have to be able to draw this out. The easiest way is using a kit. This kit I picked up on, I think, Amazon. It's a full kit for the rear bushes for E36s and E46s. So it has all the tools you need to draw these through without a press. However, we did have to use a press for one of them because it broke my tool.
Yeah. We are moving on to pressing in the lower control arm bushing here. This is another piece from PowerFlex, and it is going to reduce the deflection we have with our PowerFlex lower control arm. Up top here, we are replacing the factory bushing, which we'll show you once again, which had so much play. And at first, me and Dave thought, oh, maybe it's supposed to have a little bit of give, but this is a lot of give. And here is the factory fresh one from BMW. Our buds at Buds BMW hooked us up with this piece. Wow. You've got proper tools. Look how easy that job is. Look at that. Bam, it is in place. Oh, feel that stiffness, DP. That is some serious stiffness. All right, well, I think that is finally a wrap, putting in all these bushings. So we have got one last thing to do, and that is assemble this subframe.
And just like that, the rear end is back together again, or at least mostly back together. We've even gone so far as to install our new Eibach 25mm rear sway bar, which is a non-adjustable bar, but we've got their adjustable bar in the front to kind of tune handling balance. Bimmer World actually goes so far as to recommend running this rear bar with the stock front bar for, say, autocrossing, or a setup where you really want to encourage rotation, which might be a drift setup. So we'll see if we end up needing the front bar or running it at full soft. This is all stuff we're going to have to figure out as we actually get out and do some track testing, which is getting closer, because this thing is finally starting to come together. Look at the car again. I think that's a wrap on this episode, PT.
I think you're right, DP, and it's kind of funny because we started this episode off by thinking we were going to install this back up.
Yeah.
And here we are, still on the ground,
This was
not
a
into the
big
chassis,
job,
but
man. This was a
we
big
pretty
job.
much rebuilt this whole rear end here, right?
Yeah, every bushing and ball joint has been replaced. I did this lovely Por 15 job over top of a very rusty subframe, which, I mean, it looks better than it did, and really
10-footer.
It's looks kind of gross when you get up close because the texture's so bad on it, but it should prevent it from rusting any more than it already was. We even went ahead and Por 15 the diff itself because we had to blow this all up to get it all the bits and pieces that we wanted to swap out. So that was, I think, a bigger job than we initially envisioned, but it's nice to know that the back end is completely refreshed and should be ready to rip. So yeah, thanks for watching, everyone. We appreciate all the support. Be sure to give us a thumbs up for more E46 drift build. Really, we don't have a lot left to do other than to bolt this back up, put the suspension in, put the rear brakes on, so stay tuned for that, I think, in the next episode. And then from there, I don't know, PT, we got to get an alignment, and then get some snow off the racetrack so we can go do some skids. So stay tuned for that too.
So this allows you to pull through it, and to pull it through, you've got a cup on the other side, which is
Yeah.
bigger, a bigger OD. Hey, honey. And essentially what you do is by running this bolt through it, you can literally, as you pull the bolt, you literally suck